Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. The Natural Resource Conservation Service released their March 1 stream flow forecast, and that evaluates basin conditions on March 1st, and then uses those conditions to forecast the volume of spring flows at certain gauges in the basin. The forecast shows inflows into El Vado for the period of March through July at 70% of median. And flows at the Otoe gauge for the same period are forecast to be about 60% of median. While these numbers are not ideal for middle Rio Grande water supply, the forecast for spring inflows into the Rio Grande from the Jemez River are 118% of median. So that was the one kind of bright spot in the March 1 water supply forecast, which again, I'd like to remind everybody is it's nice to see because inflows that come in from that river system don't add to the New Mexico's Rio Grande compact delivery obligations. But I have up here two maps of the snowpack conditions in the Rio Grande Basin, and I also included the upper San Juan Basin. The upper San Juan Basin is where MRGCD San Juan Chama water is imported from through the Bureau of Reclamation's San Juan Chama project. San Juan Chama water is not subject to the rules and regulations of the Rio Grande Compact, since this water originates in another basin. The other type of water in the Rio Grande Basin is native Rio Grande water, which is water generated within the Rio Grande Basin and is subject to the rules of the Rio Grande Compact. So the map on the left shows snowpack conditions in the Rio Grande Basins and the Rio Grande Basins on Wednesday, March 6th, which was before this most recent snowstorm kind of moved through the basin. You can see that that top basin is, I think it says 84% of median. Is that 4 or 6? In that left, 84%. Okay. And then, so that top basin is the upper Rio Grande, or the Rio Grande headwaters in Colorado. That furthest left basin is the upper San Juan Basin, which is, like I mentioned, where San Juan Chama water comes from. And the basin to the middle and right is the upper Rio Grande in New Mexico that includes the, oh, thanks, Josh, that's great. That includes the Rio Chama and also the Sangre de Cristos. And then that bottom basin is the lower Rio Grande. So these are snowpack conditions before that snowstorm moved in last weekend. So if you can zoom into the snowpack graph after, and so you can see that after this, the snowstorm came in, most of the benefits to that snowstorm occurred in this lower Rio Grande and in the upper Rio Grande Basin. There was little gain. There was some accumulation, but it didn't increase the percentage of average because of the time increase. So the real benefits of this most recent storm were seen in the lower Rio Grande and in the upper Rio Grande. Moving onto the SNOTEL graph for the upper Rio Grande. The green line on this graph shows the median conditions in the headwaters, and the black line shows the 2024 water year condition, and that red line shows the snowpack conditions for 2023. So we're getting to the place in the season where we're looking at SNOTEL graphs and we're starting to take them a little more seriously as in terms of what they mean for water supply conditions. But that because we have not a lot of winter left to accumulate more snow. But that being said, conditions can still change, and I know I say that every month, but this graph is a really great indication of that. So within that red circle that I've circled on these graphs, you can see in 2023, about this time, we were very close to that median condition, and we had a couple of significant snowstorms the end of March and early April that really changed the water supply conditions. So again, we're below average, or we're below median, and it's looking like that might be where we settle out, and we're making plans based on that, but things can still change, and I just wanted to make that clear. Moving on to the Rio Chama, Upper Rio Grande SNOTEL. The dark green line on this is the 2023 hydro or snowpack graph. The black line is the 2024 water year, and the light green line is the median condition. Same thing, we're about median conditions in this basin, but if you look at last year, a couple of late season snowstorms really changed the water supply game. So moving on to the lower Rio Grande SNOTEL. You can see that this black line again is 2024, the red line is 2023, and the green is the median condition. And this most recent snowstorm really we were kind of trending down below that median condition, and that snowstorm brought us back up to that above average. So again, we're hoping for some more accumulation. So if conditions do not change, the Middle Rio Grande can expect to experience a below average spring runoff in 2024. MRGCD will be unable to store any native Rio Grande water this spring due to construction at Alvado Dam and Rio Grande compact restrictions that are in place because of the size of New Mexico's Rio Grande compact debt. This means that after spring runoff, MRGCD will only have its 2024 San Juan Chama water to augment low river flows this summer. MRGCD San Juan Chama water is not enough to augment low summer flows without any help from summer monsoons. So MRGCD will find itself once again a run-of-the-river system this summer and at the mercy of summer rainstorms. Irrigators can expect limited irrigation deliveries this summer and fall if summer rainstorms do not materialize. So looking ahead, the National Weather Service seasonal outlook is showing equal chances for above or below average precipitation and temperature through May this year. I think, is there a graph on there? Oh, okay. Go to the next one and then we'll go back. Is that okay? Next one. Okay. The National Weather Service said they expect El Nino conditions to turn into La Nina conditions this spring, which could mean a warm and dry winter next year. But the 7-day forecast is looking really good for the basin. I think there's a lot of chances late this week to see some accumulation and even some rain in pretty much throughout the basin and in New Mexico in general. So I'm hopeful that that will be the game changer that we saw last year, this late in the season. As far as startup goes, flows at the Ottaway index gauge today around 700 cubic feet per second, which is plenty of water for this time of year to start charging canals and meeting early irrigation season demand. And New Mexico is expected to have ended the 2023 with a cumulative Rio Grande compact debt of 122,000 acre feet of debt, which was an increase from the 93,000 acre feet at the end of 2022. So I think those are all my updates. I did want to address you, Director Kelly, because I know you had a couple of questions for me at the end of the last meeting. And I wanted to mention that we are still working on putting together the white paper for you that lays out the challenges and opportunities that might be within reauthorizing Hemis Dam and also Cochiti Dam. And the low flow conveyance channel, the river outfall today is currently not discharging any water to the river, and that's part of the adaptive management plan that's been laid out with the Bureau of Reclamation. But to date this year, we've measured about 10,000 acre feet has gone out those outfall so far this year, and we'll continue to push for more flexibility with that facility.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marken. Mr. Kasuga.
Yes, so Madam Chair, regarding Ms. Marken's last topic, there's an adaptive management approach, which was an adaptive management approach was what was agreed upon as part of installing this outfall. There is going to be pretty constant communication and coordination, we think. And I believe that some of the flow ranges that at the time that the Bureau were looking at were probably not accurate, because the gauge that they were referencing off of wasn't probably producing the level of accuracy, because it was being washed out at times. It was being backed up. So that's a conversation with us that we want to have along with the state. We talk about this kind of partnership with the state. This is where we want to come together as both MRGCD and the state and really push on the use of that outfall. By no means do we want the critical habitat that we want to make sure that we're getting positive benefits to the critical habitat, because that's important for us to keep diverting. One of the reasons for the adaptive management plan is there's a goal to find out how much water does this critical habitat to the west of the low flow need to thrive. And I think everybody believes that's lower than what has been historically getting there. And so there was this plan to send everything to the river for a little bit and give time for stuff to settle on the west side, and then incrementally deliver water back to this critical habitat and monitor what happens with groundwater. That seems to be the method that the BOR wants to use to identify that. And so there will be an ongoing conversation going forward about how much goes out. Our hope and my hope is that we'll be able to modify this adaptive management approach to make sure water is continuously coming out the bottom of the low flow. Because I think my opinion is I don't believe the habitat to the west needs as much water as originally believed, because groundwater is, from what I understand, remaining stable even though we moved water back to the river. And that's my hope, that the data will continue to show that. And many of those plants and trees can be sustained by shallow groundwater, and most of the surface water can go back to the river.
Director Kelly.
Just a comment, Jason, the soil profile down there has thousands of acre feet stored in it. So to make any assessment, wouldn't you have to dry out the top section of that?
Madam Chair, Director Kelly, yeah, I think so. That's why again, there's this adaptive management approach, and the tendency is to take less risk with the BOR on the critical habitat and kind of ease into that understanding, which at the end of the day, and darn it, I said that again. I've been accused of saying end of the day too many times in my speech. So I'm consciously trying not to do it as a filler. Just put that out there for folks.
It's constant feedback to the CEO.
So some of the feedback I got from our general counsel. We're hoping to be able to intercept that conversation a little bit more and drive more of that water to the river, because I agree. I think there's very little impact to shallow groundwater. I'm hoping that, and I believe the data is starting to show that, and I hope that will trend in that direction. The hot summer season, though, when things really dry out, will be a good indicator as we implement the plan during the hottest part of the year. That's one of the things that we haven't seen, and I think why you see the caution from reclamation is we haven't gone through a June and July yet with an opening to the low flow, at least in the last 20 years.
Great. Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
You said 10,000 acre feet?
Director Duggins, approximately, yes.
Since when?
Since the beginning of January.
And that thing's been dumping water for how many years? Like more or less 25, 30?
An outfall has not existed there for over 20 years.
I mean, it's been going somewhere. I don't know. It's a man-made disaster is what it is.
So the water's been pushed to the west and spread out for the last 20 years. That is correct.
For the last how many?
20 plus years.
That's
Director
a lot of water.
Duggins.
That's well more than what we owe them.
Director Duggins, some of that water pushed to the west would ultimately make it back to the river channel, but the efficiency of an outfall is definitely much higher than pushing water to the west.
It's just aggravating that happened, you know?
Thank you so much, Ms. Marken. I appreciate it. Okay.